I am so stoked to have my next guest join us. Her new EP is called Marginalia. It is Ella Jane.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. And before we start anything, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
This is literally taking place a week after, basically.
Yes, yeah, it's a big one.
And I am 2 days after you.
Oh my God, happy belated then.
I know, Scorpios in the house.
Hell yeah. There's a lot of us.
I didn't realize.
I know.
There were so many people born on your day.
I know, I know all of them somehow. We got my twin brother, Joni Mitchell, Lord. Some interesting
Your twin brother as well?
Twin brother, yeah.
And how different are you, and how similar are you?
We are polar opposites. We don't even look like siblings.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so when you walk down the street, when you talk to one another, it's like you're strangers getting to know each other.
Essentially.
What did you do? This was a big milestone.
We actually, so technically it was midnight on my birthday in Nebraska. We were driving through Nebraska and they surprised me with some like drinks from the gas station and a jar of Nutella. We celebrated in Denver. We went to like a nice little dinner and legally ordered some drinks and we went out for a bit.
Is this how you imagine 21 would be?
Not quite.
Because when you're like 16, 17, 18, like leading up to it, you're like, all right, when I'm 21.
I'd be like, I'm going to be in college for sure.
Yeah. And then when 21 hits, I'm going to be at a bar at midnight with my friends. And I'll be like, hello, Mr. Bartender.
Right.
That didn't happen.
No.
But
it did in its own way.
In its own way, and also a lot cooler.
Yes, yeah.
Being on tour.
For sure.
Did you think you'd be on tour by 21?
No, absolutely not. I kind of thought that I had always kind of secretly hoped that music would work out, but I never really saw it happening just because my whole thing was like, well, I have to go to college, I have to get a degree, so maybe after college something will magically work out. But yeah, I definitely did not see my 21st going this way.
Which is really cool.
Yes.
This is going to be a lot more memorable than being blacked out on a pub crawl with new friends that
Instead
you made
freshman
freshman
year.
Instead it was in a tour van. Right. It's interesting how you emphasized school in the beginning of your career, because you did have the passion for music. You went to Tufts, you gave it a shot, but you grew up with a family of musicians, so it's kind of the antithesis of do what you want, Ella, and
of course.
Be free.
Yeah, I think it's because my dad he's an incredible jazz pianist, but it's not for a living, and he works in PR, and he kind of had totally an unconventional career path. And my mom has known she wanted to be a doctor since she was like a baby. And so they both ultimately ended up doing really great, successful, and I don't know, like jobs that really feel like they matter. Not to say that this doesn't, but I think growing up I was like, well, I don't know nothing I can pursue creatively can be more than a hobby, because that just like doesn't make money. And that wasn't even from my parents, that was just from the environment I grew up in. It was very like, it was a really good public school and everyone was very career minded, and so I was like, I'll just put music in my back pocket and hope it works. It
was like one of those things where you kind of watch the movies where the successful businessman walks into some gala and then sits at the piano and he entertains the crowd.
And then like, ooh, I know.
And in the meantime, he's got his stocks and bonds that are making money, and he's jetting off to Monte Carlo.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I kind of thought in some perfect world that would happen. But I don't think I ever actually wanted that. I wanted to only do music, and the idea that success could involve music was just so alien to me. I think also I just didn't have a lot of female role models in music that weren't just pop stars, because I think, we know a lot of like, people can name a million either DJs or just producers that come to mind. We all know like Pharrell and Mark Ronson and these people who have really multifaceted careers in music, but the only women in music that we really know are like pop stars. And so I thought, well, great, there's no way for me to do anything in music that doesn't involve like the most amount of fame, or something that's so one in a million.
If you don't reach the peak, then what's the point?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I never
high expectations for yourself.
It was less about this is what needs to happen, and more that like it seemed so far-fetched that I didn't understand it was a possibility to get started.
Yeah, and we probably weren't exposed to the work that was put in leading up to that.
Yeah, certainly.
Like your idol, Taylor Swift,
Right.
She had a childhood that, she grinded and
Right.
you didn't really hear about it or see about it. It's just
Right.
all of a sudden she just popped out of nowhere
Totally.
to many people at that time, right? And for you, it's a little different. You popped out of nowhere on social media.
Right. No, it's completely different.
During a time when people were basically holed up in their houses.
Right.
The one theme that I found interesting as you were making music and moving to different cities is the fact that you've said in the past you felt lonely or isolated, and that the pandemic was, kind of the start of all that.
Yeah.
Were you also like that prior to the pandemic and doing music as a hobby?
A little bit, but not so much, just because before I really started pursuing music, I was just in high school. And so, I think high school, especially I think most people don't like high school. I certainly didn't. And I was really lucky to have, a good group of friends and whatever, and I had a good childhood, but I think it just, my town was very small growing up. It was a really small school, and it was growing up with the same 120 kids in my grade who I had known since kindergarten. And so that in its own way was kind of isolating and claustrophobic, and I think I felt lonely in the sense that doing what I wanted to and maybe putting myself out there seemed so inconceivable and so embarrassing. And I think that's why I didn't really start putting myself out there until I didn't have to go to high school in person.
Yeah. It's very interesting how people don't feel that sense of self-consciousness in front of strangers, but they do in front of people that they know.
Right. I always say that, like, I would, if I, was ever at some like family dinner or like holiday thing and an aunt or uncle was like, why don't you play us a song on the piano? I was like, I would actually rather die and or play to a room of thousands of people than do this for like the 10 of you right now. It just, so it was totally that mindset.
As you were moving to New York and now eventually LA, you said New York was lonely and now you're in LA. I think LA would be even more of a bigger, town to tackle and make friends.
Yeah, I think what it is that because of the progression of things and because the last 2 years have felt like 10 in themselves, I think it's just been like, when I was in New York, it was before I was, making a lot of trips to LA. It was before anything was really in person. So there weren't actually a lot of opportunities to meet people in person. And everyone that I was interacting with who was also in music, especially people who were my age, I just knew them through the internet. And so when I was in New York, I was really just, all of my friends my age were in college, and I loved Brooklyn, and I loved my friends who were a little older than me, but that felt isolating in its own way. Definitely allowed me to work harder, I think, but what's been nice about being in LA, even though no offense LA, I really love New York and would like to end up back there eventually. I think it's just a city with so much more personality. But I think since moving to LA, I've already built up a foundation of friends that I really love and trust, and there's been so much more of a camaraderie. I don't think I could have moved to LA if I didn't already have that. But I think it's more like I moved to LA because of that, not the other way around.
Yeah, it sounds like you moved to New York a few years too early.
Right. Totally.
So now with this EP that you just released, Marginalia, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're exposing more of yourself,
Yeah.
how you're tackling your identity, queer love, and also how you want love. Was it difficult to create that blank space, blank canvas to say, okay, I'm putting myself into this?
Yes, certainly. I think it was my first time experiencing the fear of that, of being like, okay, I have to write an album or an EP or whatever. And do I need to be saying something? Do I need some like grand statement? So I think it was definitely felt super daunting at first, and kind of felt like too insurmountable a task, just because, I don't know, it was like, I just was very much in that space of second guessing myself and being like, what is it that I have to say? I don't have some huge statement to make. I'm only 20. And I don't know if anything I say is more valuable than what anyone else can put out there. And so it wasn't until I kind of made myself drop that mindset and just start focusing on the music and start writing about my life that I was able to see things come together and kind of make a statement of its own.
Party Trick. You are talking about queer love, right?
Right.
And so, some people have hesitancy on how they should approach that
Right,
and how to reveal, so to speak, right?
Right.
That don't know you and,
Yes.
and all those things.
Yeah.
And you talked about how you felt uncomfortable early on,
Yeah, yes.
just even,
Right.
singing in front of people, let alone subject matter.
Yeah. I think with Party Trick, what was happening was I had started kind of seeing this girl when I was there, and it was that took place over the course of that month where I was just doing sessions. And I think coming from a super small high school where not a lot of people dated, and then the fact that like immediately the end of my senior year and the start of my college experience was pandemic, I didn't really have a normal like teenage, whatever.
Relationships
Yeah, exactly.
or,
There was
dating.
no really opportunity for that. And so this was sort of my first like taste of it. And it was obviously something that I was writing about a lot. And I think it was just, I was less so thinking like, okay, I'm finally gonna write about a girl or whatever. But it was more that something was really happening with a girl and I needed to get it on paper. It wasn't really until later when the song was done that I was like, oh, like this is really my first time, I guess, coming out in my music as opposed to just, somewhere in real life.
Yeah, I feel that particular song is just so demonstrative of not only being vulnerable and being a good songwriter, but also something that you are going to now affect people
Right.
and help people.
Right.
And that has got to be so rewarding.
Yeah, it's been very cool. I think, a question I get a lot in interviews and just in general is like, what message do you want to say with this song or with this project or something? And my answer pretty much every time is that I don't really write for other people. It's always just been a coping mechanism and an outlet for me. I think it always will be. And so I'm never going to sit there and be like, well, I'm going to write a song about telling people to accept themselves. But I think what you kind of get as a result of my sort of like diaristic autobiographical way of writing is that I'm writing about my life in really mundane terms or not mundane terms, but I'm just writing about my everyday circumstances. And if doing that involves, a girl I'm seeing, I think it almost feels more comforting and like subversive in a way to be like, this is normal, this is queer, but it's, we don't have to talk about it in any different way we would a straight relationship or
Right.
whatever. Honesty with this album was a big thing, and I think knowing, when we started entering the release cycle, like knowing that I was going to put this song out and that people who are in high school and middle school and whatever, knowing that they'd be listening and hear someone with a platform talking in very casual terms about a queer love interest it felt like a very, very cool responsibility to have and made me feel like it was like, this is a really cool opportunity. And I think in doing that, it helped me accept myself a lot more.
Your music is just so fire.
Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to the show tonight.
Yeah.
And thanks for your time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you
Great
so
to
much.
meet you.
Yeah, you too.
It is Ella Jane right here on B-Sides.